Hi, my name is Greg Jones from the Rotary Club of Salem. I am the District Rotary Foundation Chair for District 6510. This video is to show you the process for becoming certified for your club to become qualified for district grants. First, we'll start by opening DACDB. We log in. And on the home screen, you'll see tabs at the top left corner. You want to click on the My District tab. When that comes up, that will bring up the tiles that are showing for the district. We are looking for the tile that's called District Files. Here it's in the middle of my screen. It's a manila folder with some papers in it. If that tile is not showing, there is a little settings widget over here at the top right. You can click on that. The little tiles here showing in yellow are the ones I've got installed. The ones down here in the light blue are ones not installed. Look and see if you have the account files, and if you pull that up to the yellow and set your configuration, they'll be there. So let's open District Files. When it opens, it's open for me to the Secure Files tab, but I want to look at the public files. The first public file we see is District Grant Materials. So I'll click on that, and then I will click on District Grant Certification for 2627. You'll see 4 files here. There are 2 of them you need right now for your district grant certification to qualify your club. So let's open the first one. It's District Grant Management Qualification Test. Let's open that. Here you will see the test. So we have some information for you to read. After you read that information, there will be a question or 2 in each section, and you will need to answer that question and put the answer on that answer sheet that we will show when we're finished with this. You see my address is here, gregjones5300@gmail.com. That's where you will send your completed answer sheet. In the subject line of your email, please write District Grant Qualification and put your club name. Let's look at a few things in this quiz. In the section on managing a Rotary Foundation grant, there are 2 different kinds of grants your club can apply for. You can apply for a global grant or a district grant. Global grants have much more strenuous requirements than district grants do. In a global grant, you must have a separate bank account, you must do a formal community needs assessment, and you must do a formal sustainability plan, for 3 examples. A district grant does not require a separate bank account, nor does it require a sustainability plan or a formal needs assessment. The district grant money comes from donations from District 6510 members from 3 years ago who donated to the annual fund share fund of the Rotary Foundation. After the Rotary Foundation holds that money, in the 3rd year, it will distribute it back to our district, and we receive 47.5% of the contributions made 3 years ago. Of that 47.5%, we can elect to have 50% of that go towards district grants, no more than 50%, and the other 50% is used by the district for to support global grants and Polio Plus. We do have stewardship expectations if you're doing a district grant. We ask that you provide copies of your expense receipts and checks written. You don't have to have a separate bank account, but we do want those receipts. And we ask you to hold on to hard copies of those receipts and to load electronic copies of the receipts into the district grant documentation that you will see when you do the final report for your district grant in DACDB. If you have a conflict of interest, say you're buying the supplies from a club member's hardware store, you have to disclose that. It's all right if you have a conflict of interest, just you want to be upfront and tell everybody that it does exist and why you think it's okay to proceed with the project even though there is a conflict. We do require that you submit a final report whenever you ask for a grant. Those final reports are due March 1st. If you cannot get the project done by March 1st, we ask that you submit an interim report. This should be a rare thing. We do want all the grants finished as soon as possible because we do have to submit reports back up to the Rotary Foundation to report on how each club spent the money. So only if something happens that's out of your control, say weather is preventing you from doing the project, or maybe you ordered something and it didn't arrive. So those rare exceptions are the only reason why you would need to do an interim report if you can't get the project completed. Here are some funding guidelines to be aware of. The district grant can fund up to 2/3 of the project. So in this example, a Rotary Club has a project budget of $1,500. The club will provide 1/3, that's $500, and the district grant will provide 2/3, which is $1,000. The maximum district grant allowed is $2,000. So that means if you apply for the district grant maximum of $2,000, the total budget for the project must be at least $3,000. So in a $3,000 project, 2/3 of the district grant would be $2,000 and 1/3 would come from the club. If your total project budget exceeds $3,000, then the maximum is still $2,000 and whatever is remaining is going to come from the club. There is a possibility that our district grant money will be oversubscribed. We do expect that we'll get about $35,000 of total funds available to do district grants. And so if each club in the district applied for a district grant, we know we would run out of money. That typically doesn't happen, but it's possible. In the instance where the request received by the end of April 30th, which is the grant application deadline, exceeds the money available, what we will do is we will reduce proportionately all the grant requests so that they can all be met. Here's an example of having $35,000 available and having $40,000 requested by the clubs. 35,000 divided by 40 is 87.5, so each club would get 87.5 of its request. You can partner with other Rotary clubs on your project. Each club can request a maximum of $2,000, and that's perfectly acceptable to do. In fact, it's encouraged. We would love to see our clubs partner with each other to do bigger projects and to have the clubs work on projects together. The contributions from the Rotary Club will be raised by the Rotarians. You can have a fundraiser for that, or you can use existing club funds. Two things you cannot do is you cannot ask the beneficiary of the project to contribute to the fund. So let's say you're doing a project at the YMCA. You ask for a $2,000 matching grant, district grant, and you ask for $1,000 from the YMCA, and that's the total funding for the project. That's not allowed. We don't want to do a quid pro quo for our grants. Another thing we ask you not to do is to apply for a grant to provide your grant funding, your club funding in the grant. So please don't do cascading grants. We want this to come from club funds. The application deadline is April 30th. Any grant request received after the deadline will still be considered if there are funds available. We do want to spend all the money that we're allocated, but we're going to give that money first to the clubs that met the deadline. And if any money remains, clubs that did not meet the deadline can be looked at on a case-by-case, first-come, first-served basis. If your club applies for a grant, you're required to do a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU. That MOU must be signed by the club president-elect, and any member of your club that's grant certified. We ask that you upload a copy of the signature page for that grant to your district grant application on DACDB when you're filling out the application. You should read that form. The MOU is a legal document, but you will notice that many items in that MOU do not apply to district grants. This is kind of a blanket MOU provided by Rotary International, and it's really meant for global grants. And so you'll see some things that just don't apply, like the requirement to have a separate bank account. Here's our timeline. So we're looking to have all the clubs complete qualification in the period of March 1 to March 31st. We're looking at the period of April 1 to April 30th for clubs to apply for district grants. And then from May 1 to May 31, our committee will review and make approvals of all the grant applications that's been received, or request additional information from the clubs that sent that in. It seems like two of the common things that we request are the upload of the signed MOU and also an upload of a letter of cooperation. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. July 1, we'll submit the district grant request to the Rotary Foundation. None of the work on your project can begin before July 1st. That's a Rotary requirement. So no fundraising, no project work before July 1. We expect to receive the money back from Rotary in the August to September timeframe, and we will work to get the checks distributed to the clubs as soon as we can after it's received from the Rotary Foundation. You're free to go ahead and work on the project before the money's received. You don't have to have the money in hand before you start the project. The deadline to complete the project is March 1st. And so try to work on the project so it can be completed by that date. Then what we do in March is we'll review the final reports that have been received and accept all those. And then we'll file a report with the Rotary Foundation summarizing the final reports that we received. Now, how does your club qualify? Well, the first thing is doing what you're doing, having 2 members certified to receive the district grant. So we ask that at least 2 members, that's a requirement. No, at least 2 have to be. You can have more than that if you'd like, but at least 2. Another requirement is you have to be current on all prior district grant reports. We don't want, if a club is delinquent, we don't want to keep having that club delinquent year after year. And so if you don't finish your reports from the prior year, you'll be put on the list to not receive funding in the future. You must have club representation at the Land of Lincoln Pels, that is coming later in March. And if you can't attend the Land of Lincoln Pels, you can attend another Pels session as approved by the district governor-elect. Your club must be current with all district and Rotary International dues to receive a grant. If all those things are done, those 4 things are done, then you will receive notification that you're grant certified. This certification must be done yearly. That's a Rotary International requirement. Just in case any of the requirements change, that's why they ask you to go through it yearly. Here are some best practices. Number 1, make sure the project is something that your community really wants to have done. Don't just assume it's something that people want. Like you may say, wow, our school does not have any lacrosse equipment, so we should buy lacrosse equipment from the school. Well, maybe the school has determined it doesn't want to have a lacrosse team. Maybe the school has said we want to put our resources into other sports. And so if you were to buy lacrosse equipment for the school, that would just be a waste of money, and the school wouldn't appreciate it at all. So please check with your beneficiaries before you do the project. It's good to have a project committee of 3 or more people. We don't want these to be one-person projects. One person on your committee should be familiar with DACDB and be able to fill out the form to apply for the grant. It's a very easy process, but familiar with DACDB does help. One committee member should be responsible for photographing the project. We would like action shots of the project, and we will use those in the district social media and in presentations that we do. We'd like you to publicize the project in news and social media. Plan to start the project early. Don't wait to do the project in the second half of the Rotary year, because we do have that March 1st deadline, and maybe the weather will be bad in January and February and you won't be able to get it done. So it's always best to complete the project in the first half of the Rotary year, and then plan to keep the hard copy of the requirements of the records for 5 years. There are some things that we require to document your project. I mentioned the letter of cooperation earlier. So any organization you're going to work with on your project, you have to have a signed letter of cooperation from them. All that the letter has to say is that they're aware that you're doing the project. We have an example here of doing an access ramp for the senior citizen building. So you'd want to have a letter of cooperation from the senior center and the owner of the senior center. You wouldn't want to attach a ramp to a building without letting the owner know it's coming. And so this is just a way to check to make sure that everybody that's receiving something knows it's coming. You also have to do the MOU. We've talked about that. You need to do a project budget, and that will be done electronically in DACDB with your application. You will need to submit copies of your expense receipts and checks, and you will need to do copies of your photos. So that's everything we have in our certification process. You'll see there's 14 questions. So after you've read through those, then you will go to the answer sheet. Let's go back to public, district grant materials, district grant certification, and you see the second item here is the answer sheet. So here's our 14 questions. So fill those in, answer the identifying information down at the bottom, and then email this to me, gregjones5300@gmail.com, and in the subject line put Grant Management Qualification Test and your club name, and that's all it takes. We're not going to require you to do a test grant this year. Test grants are a good idea if you just want to feel your way around the system, but we feel that enough people have done grant applications in the past that most every club has people that are familiar with the process. If you have any questions, please contact me at that email. I would be happy to come to your club and talk to your club in person about the process if you have any further questions. Thank you very much.